Hello! Today we're going to learn how to use visual sources in history. What is a visual source? A visual source can be an artifact, such as a statue. It could also be an image, such as this wall fresco from Pompeii. Why are visual sources so important? For most of history, we simply do not have documents or books. So we are forced to use images and artifacts to learn about history. Are there problems, though, using visual sources? Well, you can guess. The answer is yes. What are these problems? Well, let's look at a visual source. What is this used for? Why was it created? These are not easy questions, but today I'm going to show you a method by which you can find out what visual sources were made and produced for and what they meant to the people that made them. It's called the three-step model. We need to follow a three-step process that shows us. First, we need to establish some basic information about the visual source. That is, we need to find out the origins of the visual source. In this example, we know it is from Germany, in Willendorf, and it is about 25,000 years old. The second step is to describe. What is it that you see? And here we see a round figurine with a protruding belly and large breasts. The hands are resting on these breasts. The face is indistinguishable. Our third step is interpretation. What does this mean? Well, perhaps we might look at the fact that the belly is protruding. Means that this is an example of a figurine to promote fertility. In early societies, to have children was extremely important because survival of the group depended on having many children. So a figurine like this might have been helpful to pray to the god of fertility. Moreover, the image of the breasts also suggests abundant. Fat body would have been a healthy body in those times. So we can imagine that our earliest ancestors used this figurine to portray the kind of positive human being that they wanted to have in their community. This is called the Venus of Willendorf, and we still need to learn a lot more about this visual source. Okay, I'll give you another example, this time from Pompeii, a Roman town. Pompeii is very famous because it was destroyed by a volcano eruption in the year 79 CE. All the documents were destroyed in this volcano eruption, Mount Vesuvius. But the art and the visual sources survived, the architecture as well. So Pompeii is a very unique source on the Roman world. So let's look at an example of a visual source from Pompeii and how we can use it to learn more about the Roman Empire and the people that lived at that time. This is a painting from the house of Terentius Nail, who was a baker at that time. So those are the origins. First, now we have to move on to the description. What do we see in this visual source? Well, when we look at Terentius now, we see that he is wearing some sort of white cloth. And he's also holding something in his hand. It looks like a piece of paper, a writing utensil. When we look at his wife, we can assume she's his wife. She sits very prominently in the picture. She's wearing a purple dress of sorts. It's actually called a toga. And she's also holding something in her hand. We know that this is a writing utensil, a rotulum. Let's move on to step number 3, interpretation. What does this all mean? Now we know they're wearing fancy dress, they're holding writing utensils. What does it mean? The toga that they are both wearing represents a status. It meant you were a citizen of the Roman Empire to wear the white toga. The writing utensils then demonstrate that you knew how to read and write. And because it was really expensive at the time to get an education, we know that Terentius Naeus and his family were at least upper middle class. They had some wealth and they had some status in the Roman Empire. So, how about you try yourself? Follow the 3-step model in this picture that I will show you next. Think, what is the use of studying visual sources? Also, why was it difficult to interpret visual sources? What questions do we have to ask in order to describe and analyze visual sources? Take your time. So, what do you think, students? Studying visual sources is useful because we don't have documents about the past, right? Oftentimes. So we need to use these visual sources, otherwise we cannot learn about this past. Why is it difficult? Well, we don't know enough about the people at that time, why they produce these sources. So we have to do some thinking about them ourselves. This is why we have to use the 3-step model that I showed you today. So, what questions do we have to ask in order to describe and analyze this visual source? Well, let's think first. Description. What is it that you see in this visual source? Well, we see people working in 3 different planes. We see them planting here on the top, some sort of grain, and we see someone sitting, looking at them, watching over them. Here we see them are gathering what they have planted. And then we see them working in cutting trees, using animals for the harvest, using some sort of utensils to hold products. Interpretation. What can we learn from this visual source? This is from ancient Egypt. And we see some people are working and others are not. So why? So we see this was an unequal society in which some people have power, a few, and others had to work. Those who had to work were probably slaves. We also see women in the picture. And the women are not doing the same job as the men. This brings us new questions. What was the role of women in Egyptian society? we also see the animals that are useful for the Egyptians for various tasks. So we can learn a lot about Egyptian civilization just from describing and analyzing this visual source. So, why study world history at MIC? We live in a globalized world, and this means that our countries and our lives are connected to the lives of other people in other countries. We are interdependent. So this is why we need to learn about our global past. Looking forward to see you at MIC. We're waiting for you.